Hey guys, how's it going? So today I wanted to show you how you can build an AI agent in N8N and use things like DeepSeek v3 and DeepSeek R1, but I've also got DeepSeek running on Ollama as well. So I'll show you how to do this in a low-code environment called N8N, but at the same time I have this exact thing replicated in Python right here. So it's got the exact same agent, it's got the exact same system prompt, and I want to show you the performance. And I made a video earlier this week talking about the developer experience with something like DeepSeek and how although the actual DeepSeek chat.deepseek.com works well, the developer experience is not quite there just yet. And I'll show you that by using the exact same system prompt but across different LLMs, and you'll actually see the performance. So let's go ahead and get started, and let me show you how this works. I've got this AI agent. Basically, it's a tools agent, and all it's doing is it's going to be answering a very basic question, something like, who is the president of the United States? And I thought that was a very fitting question just because recently Donald Trump became the new president of the United States, and I wanted to see if it actually was able to go back and search the internet properly to get that information. So what we've got here is we've got an OpenAI agent, and I'm running GPT-4 Mini. I've ran this on GPT-4o as well. It does the exact same. So with such a small example, it's really indifferent which model you use in this case. I've got DeepSeek v3 running on Ollama on my local machine. I've got DeepSeek v3, which is basically chat. And then I've got DeepSeek R1, which is DeepSeek Reasoner. I've got a Windows buffer memory. Don't really need it here, but I added it. Why not? And then I got access to 4 different tools. I got a Tavily API. I've got a Wikipedia API, a Google search tool, as well as a news API. Now I'm going to put all of this on GitHub. I encourage you to go and actually download the code and download this on N8N. It's got the JSON file. You can go ahead and import it into N8N and follow along. So what I want to do in this case is I just want to go ahead and open up the chat and say, who is the president of the United States? And what you'll find with OpenAI, it actually comes back with the answer pretty quick. And so the final answer is Donald Trump, who has been in the office since January 2025, which is obviously correct. Now, if I were to take away all of these tools, for example, it doesn't have any context. Its context window is actually limited back to sometime in October 2023. So if I ask this question again to say, who is the president of the United States? It's likely going to answer Joe Biden just because the final answer is Joe Biden, just because it doesn't have access to the internet and its information is cut off back to 2023, I believe, October 2023. So that's a reason why you need these tools. Now I've gotten multiple tools. You can probably get away with 1 or 2, but I just thought it'd be interesting to do it with multiple ones. So the whole reason why these tools exist is without these tools, all of these models are actually trained up until around 2023. So it's not going to give you the correct answer, which is the reason why we need to have these tools. So you've seen how ChatGPT works. Now let's go ahead and see how Ollama works. And I'm just going to go ahead and save this and hit refresh and ask it the same question. And so this, for context, is running Ollama v3. Now this, again, the current president of the United States is Joe Biden. That's interesting, given the fact that it used a Google search tool here, but still didn't come up with the right answer. But here's the interesting part. Let's see if I ask the question again to see what it actually does. Now it says, unable to confirm the current status of Joe Biden as president of the United States. And let's ask it one more time. So unable to confirm the current president of the United States. Okay, so now let's go ahead and try DeepSeek v3. And I'm going to tell you my opinion why I think right now DeepSeek just isn't set up or ready for the developer experience just yet. And that'll become more evident right here when I ask it on v3. What you'll notice is that sometimes, hopefully it actually does it this time because it's been doing it for me as I've been testing it, is that this will go into a never-ending loop. Sometimes it'll call something, sometimes it'll call these tools multiple times. It'll almost have an infinite number of tool calling here, and it never comes back with an answer. So, I mean, unfortunately, when you're running an API, you want to make sure that the answer is returned back within a couple of seconds. I don't think people have the appetite or the time to basically spend to be waiting for something like this. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this because in my mind, this actually passed the threshold of what would be an acceptable time for an API. And we're going to go ahead and trash this. And now I'm going to run DeepSeek R1. Now, the interesting thing about R1, again, a little unfortunate, is it doesn't support function calling. So you'll see that it does not support function calling, which basically means that I've got to get rid of these tools. Now, if I get rid of these tools, the problem is for anything that is current, it's going to be relying heavily on its own knowledge base, which again is cut off in 2023. So it's going to come back and say, no, the current president is Joe Biden, which obviously is incorrect. And that's no different if I were to even run DeepSeek R1 here as well. It's going to have the same fate where basically it's going to say I don't support function calling. So I can go back, hit save, and we can try this out. And what you'll see again if I ask it that question is pretty much doesn't support function calling. Now, if I get rid of these, it should respond back with Joe Biden as an answer. And now that it is reasoning, it is going to take a little bit of extra time. The other thing I'll tell you is that even something like OpenAI does do chain of reasoning. And I actually built it into the prompt to go ahead and basically mimic what you would see in something like Python so that you actually do get the chain of how it's thinking and what it needs to do. So these are all the steps that it would take to get to the final answer. And again, the current president is Joe Biden, and that's because its knowledge base is cut off. So there are some limitations to R1. Now, with that said, I also did a video, which I'll link below, that talks about how R1 did outperform O1 in terms of speed and performance on solving a basic riddle, or a puzzle, I should say. You should go and take a look at that. Now we can go and replicate what we just did here in Python. And the reason why I'm doing this is to show you that the limitation isn't necessarily with N8N. The limitation really here is just with the API itself, unfortunately. And I did check the status of the API. It is up, so that shouldn't be a reason why this isn't working. But basically what I've done in this case, very similar to N8N, is I've got all of these different API keys. I've got 4 tools that I've defined. Tavily Search is one of them, which basically has access to its API. And you would need to create an env file, which I'll link as a template that you can go and fill out. And it has access to these 4 tools. Now you have the ability to create multiple different types of agent models. So DeepSeek Chat is basically DeepSeek v3 at this point. It is pointing directly to DeepSeek's endpoint and not something like OpenRouter. You've got an Llama model, and then you've got the OpenAI model. And I've also created the memory buffer here as well. You don't really need it, but it's okay to have it. Then you have access to the same 4 tools. And then it's got the same system prompt. And then finally, you have the ability to go and run the model. So let's go ahead and run this. And we're going to ask it the same question. So right now, just to make sure that I'm running the right model, it is currently running DeepSeek's LLM model, which I will run later. Let's go ahead and run the OpenAI model first, just to show you that there's a lot of consistency with this model as well right now. So if I go ahead and run this, I'm going to ask the question a few times. I'm going to say, who is the president of the United States? And maybe I'll copy and paste this so I don't have to keep typing it. And so it's going through all the searching and the tools that it needs to go through, and it's picking that itself based on the fact that this is a React agent. So the current president is Donald Trump, who's inaugurated on January 20th. So let's ask it the same question again. And again, I want to show you the consistency that OpenAI has at this point in time. So again, it gives you the same answer. And just for the heck of it, let's go ahead and run it one last time. And you'll see that it should give you the same answer. So now I'm going to go ahead and change this over to Llama. And the reason why I want to change it to Llama is I know that that's running off of my local machine, so I don't have to worry about API calls and stuff like that right now. But we're going to go ahead and end this, and we're going to run it again. Now I might surprise myself, but the last time I did these tests, it gave me a different answer every single time. So the President of the United States is not explicitly provided in the information. And again, the only thing we've done is we've taken the agent and hooked up a new LLM model to it. But outside of that, nothing's changed. So the current president of the United States is Joe Biden. And so in the first instance, it said that I didn't know. The second one, it's saying it's Joe Biden. The third one, it's saying it's Joe Biden but it hasn't been confirmed. So anyways, you can see that it isn't actually using the prompts the way you want it to use it and the way that a React agent should behave, especially when it's got access to the same tools that the other one did. And just for brevity, I'm going to go ahead and run the DeepSeek one so that you have an idea of how this one works. And again, this is running DeepSeek v3. It can't run reasoning because, again, it doesn't support function calling. So we're going to go ahead and run this right here and cancel this. Now, sometimes it runs, sometimes it just sits here. Sometimes it goes through endless loop. And again, I think just looking at developer experience, I don't think that this would work well. I think, maybe with an LLM API, the appetite is 5 to 10 seconds. Anything longer than that, I think people will start getting impatient. So just to show you that it's not as perfect as I think it's made out to be just yet. Now, with that said, I do think it's going to get better over time. But right now, I think you have to be very careful before you start swapping your models over to something like this, because you saw in the previous example, even with the llama, just the inconsistency with the model itself. And then the second piece is it doesn't always work. And I think the other thing you have to keep in mind is if you want to build more enhanced bots, right? So this is what I would call a very, very basic bot. If you want to build enhanced bots, it's going to be very difficult to do that without some kind of a function or some kind of a tool. So you have to ask yourself, are you ready to move over to R1 but sacrifice tools and build those into the actual flow itself? So my personal assessment on this is, while I really, really like the model, I did read the white paper. It sounds very interesting. I just don't think it's developer ready just yet, but that can change in the next couple of weeks or even the next couple of days. So hopefully you found this helpful. If you have any comments, please note them below, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks. Bye-bye.